I'll be honest, when I first saw that SmallRig had a shoulder rig kit for only $99, I didn't have high expectations. Most shoulder rigs I find online are pretty expensive and quite bulky, and this one just seemed very minimal. So when SmallRig asked me to review their most basic shoulder rig kit, I was kind of expecting it to feel pretty cheap. But after using it with my Canon C50 on a few shoots and personal projects, I can say I actually am thoroughly impressed with the shoulder rig kit and how sometimes a minimal design can be the most useful one, depending on what kind of filmmaker you are. So in this video, I'll cover what comes in the kit, how it is actually using it, some of its drawbacks, and whether it's worth picking up for yourself. Before we cover this specific shoulder rig, let's cover why someone might want to use a shoulder rig in the first place. A lot of filmmakers today rely on gimbals, lens stabilization, in-body image stabilization, or good old-fashioned handheld for stable footage. And those all are great options, especially depending on what you're trying to achieve. But a shoulder rig gives you a different kind of look. It adds weight, multiple contact points, and a greater sense of control that you're not going to get with the other options out there. It makes your handheld footage feel a lot more intentional and significantly less shaky. A gimbal can sometimes look a little too floaty, and handheld can sometimes be a little too shaky. A shoulder rig sort of sits right in the middle, not too smooth and not too shaky. And I hate using this word, but it does have like an organic feel to it, where it doesn't seem so artificial. And a shoulder rig is a lot more comfortable to use all day than just handheld shooting or even a gimbal, because your arms are gonna tire out well before your back and shoulder do with a shoulder rig mount. So this isn't going to replace things like your gimbal, tripods, etc. It's just another tool in your filmmaking toolkit that you can use. Now onto SmallRig's basic shoulder rig kit. This is their most affordable shoulder rig option, costing only $99. They have some more expensive premium models like their Hawk Lock shoulder rig kit, which does look awesome, but is going to cost you $400 or $500 if I remember correctly. The kit comes with everything you need to assemble the shoulder rig kit, which includes the rods, the handles, the shoulder pad, and the actual Arca Swiss mount that you put your camera on. These are all customizable, so you can adjust it to fit your needs specifically. But the real test is not just in what comes in the box, but how does it actually feel when you're using it. This is where I expected to be kind of disappointed, because when something is this affordable, especially when it comes to filmmaking gear, there's usually going to be some sort of sacrifice. But my first impressions of it genuinely surprised me. All of the materials that make up the body of the shoulder rig are all made of some sort of high quality aluminum metal that feels very sturdy. The pads that go on the shoulders are fairly comfortable and don't have any weird protruding parts to them. The handles also are rubbered, so they're a little more comfortable on your hands. And mounting your camera in the Arca Swiss plate is really secure, especially if you already have a SmallRig cage. It just slides right in and you get to lock it in and it's secure. If you do use the Arca Swiss plate, I have felt that the screw can loosen, but that's not super unusual considering that this happens to any sort of mount that uses a screw option like that. It does feel like an entry-level rig because you don't have any extra bells and whistles to it. If you want to, say, adjust the handles, you need to actually loosen the knob on there, adjust it to your position, and then lock it in. So you're definitely not going to be able to do like adjustments while you're filming. You'll want to put this down and then make those adjustments accordingly. But if all you need is a way to mount your camera onto your shoulder, this thing is more than enough and gets the job done. When you first put this thing on your shoulder, you'll feel how much steadier your footage is immediately. I personally like to push on the handles so that the shoulder pad is braced against my shoulder, and that way I have those 3 contact points and you get really stable footage even if you're doing movements like pans, tilts, etc. For slower walking shots, documentary style tracking like push-ins, pull-outs, and following your subject, it has a more grounded and, I guess you could say, natural feel to it that you're not going to get if you just go simply handheld. It places the camera and therefore your audience a little more in the action, and you get to track it as if you're someone in the room. But as much as I like this rig, I did find a few problems with it. The biggest issue with this rig is how basic it is. Because you don't get any of those extra accessories, it does become a little limiting to operate. For example, when I'm holding the rig and I want to adjust the zoom on my lens or any other setting on my camera, if I let go, I noticed with my left hand, the rig will naturally want to tilt over to one side, and it becomes kind of jarring to actually, operate and adjust the settings I want. I have found if I keep my left hand gripped and then I let go of my right hand, it's a little bit smoother. I do find the shoulder rig sits and bounces more towards me, but it's sort of that quality of life that you wish you had greater control over. And I have seen reviews on the Hawk Lock shoulder rig, and it seems like adjusting handles like that, or even your camera, is a lot more smoother on that model. As much as I appreciate that you assemble this yourself and that everything is fairly secure, I do get worried about a lot of those screws loosening over time. In fact, on one of my handles already, I have noticed that the screw is starting to loosen because the washer doesn't seem to hit quite as snug as the other one. And so I end up just tightening it at the beginning of every shoot just to make sure that nothing falls apart on me while I'm filming. But in the rig's defense, you do have a ton of ways of customizing it, and all over the body, you have different RE mounting points, 1/4 inch threads, 8-inch threads that you can put a bunch of different accessories on it to really match and work with your workflow. But as a very basic kit, it gets the job done, but you're not going to get anything special out of it. I'd recommend this for any beginner filmmakers, YouTubers, content creators who want to have a more intentional looking handheld footage without breaking the bank. This also makes sense for any event shooters, doc shooters, music video people, and others who work in fast-paced environments where you don't have the luxury of setting up a tripod all the time or even a gimbal. I don't think this is for any high-level video productions where you're going to be mounting a very large cinema camera. I would be very hesitant to put one on this rig. But at that point, you'll be looking at some of those higher end options anyways, and so I can't imagine you'd even be interested in this model. So is the SmallRig shoulder rig kit worth it? For $99, I think yeah, but only if you understand what you're getting. This is not a perfect shoulder rig. It's not great for high-end cinema productions, and it's not going to replace any of your other more stable options. But it does give you a simple, affordable way to improve your handheld footage and make it more intentional. And for filmmakers and content creators who are still building out their kits, this is a great option. If you want to pick up the shoulder rig yourself, there will be a link in the description box and pinned comment. Using this link supports the channel at no extra cost to you. A huge thanks to SmallRig for sending me this shoulder rig and supporting the channel. If you're still building out your filmmaking kit, you can check out my other affordable gear reviews here. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. I appreciate every single one of you who do, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.